Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Starseed Dragon channel. We are reviewing the Pride Tarot, and we are currently on the Suit of Swords. And we're starting off with the Ace of Swords, edited by, or artwork by Edmund Zebrowski. The creative and crafting arts, forging and weaving into being, are mysteries at the very fiber of the LGBTQ plus spirit. In the Ace of Swords, we look beyond the qualities of skin color or gender and focus instead on grander visions. Crowning the Ace of Swords, Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man reminds us of the rich LGBTQ history that has taught us to look at the way the world works through new eyes. In our current age, we are redefining our culture's gender norms. Below the sword runs an A machine, the mathematical construct created by gay computer scientist Alan Turing aided the theory of computation propelling technology into our futures. The pageant crown of drag culture is a symbol of self-authority in the multitude of ways that one wishes to express it. We are finding the liberty to break new ground and challenge existing societal structures. The way we champion for the rights of the LGBTQ plus community brings us all together to create something new. Beautiful. Next up, Two of Swords by Patrick Valenza. A mighty two-headed swordsman stands motionless in the castle courtyard, resembling an unbreakable stone statue. The internal conflict he has waged against himself has resulted in stalemate, with neither the light nor the dark side of his body being able to overpower the will of the other. The matching tattoos on the swordsman's shoulders show that both his dark and light sides have similar aspirations. In order for the swordsman to realize his true potential, he must stop being his own worst enemy and unite his warring halves into a single force. The Two of Swords could represent an area in your life that has reached an impasse. Your advancement is being blocked by what seems to be an immovable obstacle. The harder you push, the harder it pushes back. Stop trying to fight what is. The only way to reconcile the two sides is by being honest and accepting of your true feelings. Next up, The Three of Swords by Sabina Espinet. This card traditionally represents a deeply emotional, sorrowful experience such as heartbreak, loss of relationship, or betrayal. As individuals, we all experience these feelings, but they can also be applied to the painful LGBTQ plus history, the fear of coming out, and the heartbreak of rejection. The weight of feeling different and the need to hide by pretending to be someone else. The shame of being cast out of religious organizations. The hurtful insults and taunts and the loss of lives from suicide and hate crimes. But this card also represents hope that these experiences make us stronger as individuals and as a community. Out of the pain comes growth and support. The stained glass window underscores the role that religion has played historically in the persecution of the LGBTQ plus community. but it is also a reminder that many faith-based organizations have chosen to reject hate and instead open their doors to all in support and love. Next up, Four of Swords by Mumi Swan. Key words: time to rest, take a break, rest your mind, clear your head, recharge. The Four of Swords is a card of rest and recuperation. It especially addresses the need to take time to review what happened after experiencing mental strife or verbal abuse. Sleep and rest are vital for physical health and mental well-being. I chose to set this card in a natural environment with the non-judgmental companionship of a dog because these are things I seek out when I feel burnt out and emotionally exhausted. We live in a culture that values excessive work, lofty achievements, and ableist rhetoric, and sometimes it is necessary to reconnect with your body and your needs away from the opinions of others. Next up, The Five of Swords by Devin Halil Ferries. I'm just chopping up all of these names, aren't I? The original meaning of the Five of Swords card represents conflict and dishonorable action, such as bullying and unfair fights. Traditionally, the card focuses on the individual who seems to have been the aggressor who has separated from the group. In this Five of Swords, the victor is now the person who has suffered injustices and hostilities. Here he has distanced himself from overcoming abuse, trauma, and prejudice. I wanted to illustrate a Black trans individual overcoming those very obstacles and coming out on top. The two figures in the background are the very manifestations of bullying and oppression that trans people, specifically trans people of color, deal with on a daily basis. Beautiful. Next up, The Six of Swords by Kat Black. The Six of Swords illustrates a time of transition. The two women are leaving the past behind and journeying to a safe place where they can start a new, authentic life together. This card offers an empowering message that urges you to escape from that which has confined you and prevented you from being your true self. This may be a trip into the unknown, but the destination is one where you will be where you will be welcomed and accepted. Next up, Seven of Swords by Callie French. Here we see the typical deception of the sneaky, deceptive Seven of Swords. He's obviously stealing swords from the opposition, or maybe his own troops. The tattoo on his arm is DADT 2011, referencing the Don't Ask, Don't Tell military policy, which was repealed in 2011. In this view, it's more than the swords the Marine is hoping to get away with. What's portrayed here is the whole idea of not being able to be honest about his sexual orientation without facing persecution. Depicting this scene with a background of red sky at morn, sailor be warned, is not only a warning to the sailors on board, but to the Marine as well. Without swords to fight with those on board, the sailors would lose. But if the Marine is caught, then he's the one who'll have to face the consequences, especially if the DADT law isn't in effect. Yay. Next up, Eight of Swords by Liz Houston. The Eight of Swords represents feeling restricted, insecure, isolated, inhibited, and uptight. This card suggests an experience of victim mentality, of being so imprisoned by one's own mind that the very act of thinking becomes limited and rigid. The problems we face may be real, but the fears and stories wrapped around them are not necessarily true. If there is a desire to move out of the bondage, we can realize our fears are constructs of the mind and begin to use the same powers to choose different, more empowering thoughts. The woman on this card feels trapped and isolated, but it is an illusion. The ropes that bind her hands are loosely tied. With just a small amount of effort, she can liberate herself. Solutions exist, though they're not always easy. Look for ways to ease the fears, search for solutions, and your mind will follow suit. That is very true. Next card, Nine of Swords by Kristen Zillick. Fear has many faces: existential fears, anguish, fear of loss. Events that have burrowed deep into our soul can trigger fears. The effect on the body and mind can have devastating consequences. This state is often accompanied by doubts, despair, and insomnia. In my vision, I have again used images of nature to suggest emotions. In this dark forest scene, 9 dead tree stumps create an eerie night mood. A woman is leaning against one of these trees, wearing a nightgown and holding a light blanket. Sleepless and plagued by worry, she appears like a ghost, sleepwalking in this desolate forest with its decaying plants in the undergrowth. The fear has gripped her so strongly that she seems to dissolve. This confrontation with fear enables the release of negative energies. I deliberately chose this card because I am very involved with fear and panic in my work with horses. Interesting. Next up, the Ten of Swords by Irene Lorenzi. The Ten of Swords depicts sadness and loneliness. The person who is portrayed here is an androgynous being without gender who lives an inner conflict because of their identity, and for this reason lives a changing life. The devils that open this person's chest represent their inner demons, causing them heartache. Their head is detached from the body because they experience life through the mind, and the body is two distinct entities without feeling integrated or accepted. They live as a sort of martyr. From the eyes, as seen in some sacred images, tears of blood seep out, and the moon behind them represents a sort of halo of swords. Next up, Page of Swords by Sienna Summers. This card is about re-examining beliefs from a different point of view. The Page of Swords represents destruction of the old mindset and the construction of a new perspective that is more just. The page is prepared to abandon all old ideas about the world and build new ones with the power of their mind. This requires the ability to quickly adapt to the inevitable changes in life. A new open-mindedness will change the world. Next up, Knight of Swords by Caroline Kaplan. The Knight of Swords brings a message of fortitude and discernment when facing challenges. The Knight thinks everything through and considers what is just and right before acting. The Knight of Swords card is an extension of J. Karis Studios' lesbian queer major arcana deck, depicting a strong feminine energy on a card usually depicting a male figure. Next up, Queen of Swords, illustrated by Marco Prieto, description by Arwen Lynch. Our long-limbed queen is a fierce drag queen. She's fought her way to the top and she plans to stay there. Yet she will stand by you as long as you show her loyalty. A few small gifts and compliments wouldn't go amiss either. Her razor-sharp reads of others can cut, but she always delivers those slapbacks with a healthy side of humor. Reversed, this queen is brittle and mean. Her facade is easy to see through, but she will snatch you bald before she lets you in. Her mind is her worst enemy. That is where her own litany of self-loathing is on an endless repeat. Check your own mental status. Are you slandering yourself? If this is someone else, your best bet is to rise above the conflict. When the Queen of Swords is down and dirty, she's hard to beat. That's interesting. This is the first card we've run into that has a reversed meaning on it. Interesting. Next up, King of Swords by Sabina Espinet. This card represents wisdom, leadership, truth, and reasoning. The King of Swords is principled and ethical with a strong mind. He bears witness to ugly truths, but is compassionate in his judgment. He asks that we balance intellect with emotions and apply clear thinking to solve problems. I chose to paint actor Sir Ian McKellen as the king because his role of leadership in the LGBTQ plus community is an outspoken older gay man has been an inspiration to many. His character Gandalf also embodies the qualities of the King of Swords. He is depicted here in a stained glass window style to remind us of the role that the church has historically played in the persecution and mistreatment of the LGBTQ plus community, but also as a reminder that many faith-based organizations have chosen to reject hate and instead open their doors to all in support and love. Beautiful. Next card is going to be in the Suit of Wands, and we are going to do that in another video. So I will see you in the next video where we will go over the Suit of Wands, and I hope that you are enjoying this. If you are, there is a link in the description. It's an affiliate link if you would like to purchase this deck for yourself. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.